Okay, good evening once again. Hello to everyone. My name is Alexander Mensah. You can call me Alex. You can also add a title, Dr. Mensah. I don't mind. But today we're going to talk about technical paper. This is what we're going to handle today. What is a technical paper? We're going to go through the main part of it is going to handle how we can be able to write our own technical paper and how we can present our findings in a way that will make people excited to read it, right? So even though we're going to focus more on the student paper contest, the things we are going to talk about are going to be things that we can apply in our own postgraduate studies or even in our own research journey. So before we dive into exactly what we want to talk about, let me ask, is there anyone on the call, especially apart from Dr. J, is there anyone else who has published a paper before or who is in the process of publishing a paper? Do you have anyone? You can unmute and then just let me know, so I know how the conversation should go. Okay. Then I guess it means that we are all new to paper publishing. So I'll try my best to break it down as possible as I can. If you have any question, please, you can drop it in the chat. I believe Dr. J can read it out, or you can also unmute yourself and then cut me off at any point in time and ask me the question. Okay. Should you raise your hand, I may not be able to see you if you raise your hand. So you can do that. Now, the main question we all have to ask ourselves before we dive into this presentation is, why do we have to write a technical paper? That is one thing we have to ask ourselves. Some people decide to write technical papers for promotion. Others decide to write it so that they can get some fame out of it. Others also decide to write it basically for competitions like the SPC, the Student Paper Contest competition, which every postgraduate student is eligible to contest, as well as every undergraduate student is eligible to contest. Once you're a member of SPE, you're eligible to contest in the Student Paper Contest. The Africa one is coming up in December. The deadline is this December. So please let's apply whatever we're going to get from here so that we can put together our abstracts and submit. Now, in writing a technical paper, there are a few things you have to prepare before you start even the journey of writing the paper. The first thing you have to do is to look out for the right information that you will need. So where are you going to get this information from? Most of the time, you're going to get it from other literature. Okay. So now you already have the concept of what you want to do. The problem is, how are you going to know what is left to be done if you do not go into literature to read about what has already been done? Whilst you are reading in literature through other papers or books, you have to note down certain things. The first thing you have to note down is, how did they do theirs? What have they done? And then what are their results? You need these three things because you are going to develop on what others have done so that you can also bring out something new. So you always have to put your attention on what you are learning from what you're reading. Let's say, for instance, you want to start a paper and write about carbon capture, utilization, and storage application in Africa. You want to do an economic survey. So are you the first person to do it? Definitely someone else has done it. Maybe not in Africa, but somewhere else in the world. You may want to get hold of that paper, look at how the person did it, so that you can also be able to follow that methodology and arrive at your solution. Now, what you would also want to think about is what you want at the end of the day, your reader, whoever you are writing the paper to, whoever you are writing the abstract to, what you want that person to understand from what you've written. Everything we write should convey a message. It should have a general overview that at the end of the day, that person should be able to understand something from it. As we go along, we are going to go through some tutorials. We're going to go through, I put together some abstracts that we're going to go through to see exactly what we're talking about. Now, when you're doing your literature survey, you would come across papers that are similar to what you want to do. You come across others that are way different from what you want to do. So you want to take note of those that are similar to what you want to do, and then look at how similar they are to your work, or how your work can, so that you can know how your work can be able to be different from what they've already done, because you don't want to go ahead and then repeat what has already been done. That will also not work. So the general overview is that, one, you have to know what you want to do. Two, you have to get some papers, other literature that has done what you want to do or similar thing like that. Then you have to know what the similarities are, what the differences are, what you're going to build upon, right? And in all of this, remember who you are writing for. There are other write-ups that are very technical because they are going to very technical people in the domain space. And there are other write-ups that are more liberal. So you have to know exactly who you are writing to. For student paper contest, you have to be technical, right? You have to be technical. Let us know that you know exactly what you're talking about. So now that we have the general overview of the plan, now let's zoom in to determine exactly how we're going to write the paper. So I have always broken down writing of papers by answering these three key questions. If you're also able to answer these questions whilst you're writing, it will go a long way to help you out. So the first thing is, what problem are you seeking to solve? Why are you doing that research? That's one thing that should always be on your mind. Why am I doing this? What problem or what answer, what explanation are you seeking to give out? Then the second thing you have to take note of is the solution. What do you want to contribute to knowledge or to literature? That is going to guide you along your path. Is it something new? How different is it going to be? So first of all, you need to know what your problem you want to solve is. Then you would want to know what solution you want to bring on board. Okay. Can you please mute yourself? Okay, thank you. So after you've gotten to know what your problem is, now you need a solution. That is what you are coming up with. You have to keep what solution you want to give always in your mind. Now, the solution you want to provide, how is it going to impact the broader audience? Is it going to provide time? Is it going to provide money? Is it going to be something that will enhance sustainability? Okay, that's another thing you have to consider. How is it going to improve conditions? Now, if you're able to get this PSV, as I call it, down, then you are good to go. So first of all, you need to know what your problem you want to solve is, what you want to write about. What exactly is it? What problem are you seeking to solve? Now, what solution do you want to contribute to knowledge or to the industry? Now, how valuable is it going to be? You have to be able to capture all of these in your paper or your manuscript. Typically, as we all know, Manuscripts that are written usually come in these steps. All right. So these steps are the steps that we usually go through in order to write good manuscripts. You have to start with your title. You have to move on to your abstract. Then you go into your introduction all the way to your results, and then you get your acknowledgement as well if you want to. So right now we're going to go through the steps from title all the way to the results and discussion. So let's see how you can break down your title and make it quite attractive for people to want to listen to you. First of all, in your title, the first thing you want to do is to focus your attention, the reader's attention on the content of your paper. So your title is basically there to draw your reader's attention, to capture their attention. That is basically the first thing that the reader is going to look at when he gets your paper. So let me ask all of you on the call right now. When you look at this particular title, right? Imagine this is a title of a paper. A look ahead, back to the basics. Does it make sense to you? Are you able to draw any inference on what the author wants to talk about?
How much?
Is someone talking?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So when you look at a title like this, a look ahead, back to the basics, you realize that this title doesn't really tell you exactly what the research is about. It doesn't tell you what exactly, you look at it, you're asking yourself so many other questions. Now, look at this title rather. Thank you, Xavier. So when you look at, now let's change the title. Let's make it more realistic. Now, look at it. It's the same thing, but then we've changed it and written it in a different way. The future of AI application in Africa, back to the basics. Now, a title like this, right? A title like this is what we are looking for. A title that tells us exactly what we are going to talk about. Now, here in this title, you would know that the person wants to focus on artificial intelligence application in Africa. But then the person wants to go back to the basics and then start from there, right? So remember, your title has to be brief. You don't have to put a lot of words in it, no. But then you have to also go straight to the point. Let us know what your article or your paper is about. When you submit your student paper contest abstract, right? The first thing that the judges are going to look at is your title. And the title leads to the abstract, right? So you want a title that speaks to them, that makes them know exactly what you are talking about. We'll go through an example like that so that you know exactly what we're talking about. So now that you've got your title, the next thing you would want to look out for is your abstract. In fact, this is the main thing right now. This is the reason why we are all here, the abstract, because we have to submit an abstract this December. This is why we are here. So what do you need in your abstract? Okay. Your abstract has to answer certain 3 key questions. And these are the questions that will guide your whole write-up. 1, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Right? Now, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? You have to let us know your motivation to doing this thing. Maybe you want to do something new. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it just because you can do it? That wouldn't go anywhere. You should do it because it's going to solve a problem. Okay, so remember, Remember, you want to look at why you're doing it, your motivation behind it. Now, how are you doing it? Okay, the first question is, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? The second question you want to answer in your abstract is, how are you doing it? How are you doing this thing? You don't want to write so much about how you're doing it. Just a single sentence or two is enough. Now, what solution did you find out? Is also going into your abstract. What solution did you find out? Once again, you don't have to write so much. Just a few sentences will be enough to convey the idea. So you realize that the abstract is more or less like the whole paper, a summary of your paper, because these questions are the same questions that you're going to carry on into your paper. So first of all, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? You need to answer yourself that question. How are you doing what you're doing? And then the final one, what solution are you getting out of it? So your abstract, it needs to be on the problem. It needs to talk about the problem you want to solve. When you are discussing how or why you want to do what you want to do, remember the first thing you have to do is provide context. What do we mean by that? When we say that you have to provide context when you are discussing why you're doing what you want to do, that context is in line with what others have done. Okay? Because we need to understand where you are coming from. Let's say that you are talking about carbon capture, utilization, storage, and then you've come up with a very fine way of storing carbon dioxide without even doing any compression or anything like that. Maybe you are using some molecules or some leaves to store carbon dioxide. So, so when you are doing this, the first thing you want to do is provide a context. What has already been done and why are you doing what you're doing? Then when you finish, you want to give us a key takeaway from your work. Maybe the leaf can store carbon dioxide more than 20 times the normal storage devices we have. The underground storage, maybe your leaf can store carbon dioxide 20 times more than the average underground storage we have. So you see, now you are giving us the key takeaway. Now, if I read that abstract, I'm like, oh, wow. Then you summarize your results a bit. When you are summarizing your results, remember, you always have to put it in the broader point of view. Okay? You want to put it in the broader point of view because at the end of the day, you are bringing it into the world, right? You are bringing it into the world and you want to put it in the broader point of view. So back to that leaf. You've created a leaf that is able to capture carbon dioxide more than how we inject it into the ground. Okay. Now the broader perspective. Now, if we are able to use this leaf, it's going to push the sustainability agenda forward, and it's going to help us be more sustainable in our oil and gas industry. So you see, you are putting it in a broader perspective. So once again, your abstract, okay, is answering certain key questions. 1, what are you doing and why are you doing it? 2, how are you doing it? Then 3, what are your results? These 3 key questions, you answer them in your abstract and you're good to go. If you have any question, you can always unmute yourself and then ask. Now that we've finished with the abstract, our next point of call will be the introduction. Remember the abstract, we started with what are you doing and why are you doing it? That's the same process you're going to go through when you start with the introduction. The introduction is just talking about why you are doing what you're doing. Why you are doing it. What is your motivation behind it? What is the problem? Do you have any existing solutions? You have to talk about it in your introduction. And if you compare your the existing solutions, are there limitations? That is, then you have to stand on those limitations and say that because of A, B, and C, that is why I am also proposing this solution. Then you end it all with what you hope to achieve. So in your introduction, you're going to talk a bit about what you hope to achieve. It doesn't have to be too long. Once again, let's say we are still writing a paper or we are doing a research about a leaf that can store carbon dioxide. Okay. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that CO2 is a major issue in terms of sustainability. Now, are there existing solutions? Yes. Carbon capture is an existing solution where we re-inject carbon dioxide into the ground. And this is a way that will enable the oil and gas industry become sustainable. Now, what is the limitation? Maybe you can talk of the cost. You can talk of the storage sites. We don't get enough storage sites. You can also talk of the amount of carbon dioxide that can be stored. Now, you've seen these limitations. Now, you see, we've given sufficient background. Now, what you are bringing on board. So you say, that is why, in your introduction, right? That is why I am bringing this leaf on board. And this leaf would be capable of storing carbon dioxide 10 times the original storage capacities we have. See, that is your introduction. Now, we move on to so the introduction, just like your abstract, the first part is answering your what and why. Okay. Now we move on to the how. How are you going to do it? How is that leaf going to store a lot of carbon dioxide? That is what your research methods seek to talk about. How are you going to do it? How did you produce the leaf? Right? How does it store carbon dioxide? How is its capacity more than the normal capacity that we have? Remember, your methodology is more like a description, more like a cookbook that has various ingredients that tell people how to prepare food. That's how you want to put it. So you need to give enough details that can allow people to understand what you want to do, and if possible, replicate it. So it doesn't mean that you have to write so much. Just be brief and straight to the point. Remember, if you are writing a technical paper, which you will need when you get accepted for the student paper contest, you will need to submit a technical paper. And if you are writing it, you don't have to write a lot of introduction. Okay. So now let's recap a few of the things that we've gone through. First, you need your title. It has to be brief and straight to the point, and it has to be catchy. Second, you need your abstract. Your abstract is answering 3 questions. What are you doing and why? How are you doing it? And then what are the results? Then you move on to your introduction. Your introduction is answering the first part of your abstract. It's broadening it. The introduction will broaden that part. So your introduction is telling you what are you doing and why, right? Then you move on to your methodology or your body or your research method, the details. How are you doing it? Now that we've covered the what, why, and how, let's go on to what the results are. So to see what your results are, this part is actually the part that everyone wants to read. This is the most important part you can ever write, okay? Because your results is going to just focus on the things you are bringing on board. Remember, when you were doing your survey, you read some literature, okay? Your literature, you saw certain things that were in agreement to what your idea was. And you saw others that were not in agreement with what your idea was. You gathered all those literature down. Now, when you get to your results, your idea is to create a leaf that can capture carbon dioxide. Maybe someone has written a paper or a book that is saying that this particular leaf has something in it that prevents this thing from happening. Now, your results don't only go for those who agree with you. You can also go for those who don't agree with you, but make a case for why your what you've done is different from it, but then it's still possible to happen. So in your results, you need to focus on what your results it indicates. Your result is indicating that the leaf can store carbon dioxide. Now, what is the significance of that result? You need to put it in a broader perspective that your leaf being able to store carbon dioxide will be able to push the sustainability agenda. Now, is that aligning with literature? Are your results aligning with literature? Remember, you did a survey. Are they aligning with what the principles behind it? So if still speaking about the leaf, now you're talking about how the leaf works. How will it be able to capture carbon dioxide? Okay. Does the principle, how it works, align with literature, what we already know about leaves? If it does, hooray. If it does not, why doesn't it? You have to explain that. It's part of the results, right? If it does as well, why does it? Why does he agree? Is there something in that leaf that makes it more susceptible to capturing carbon dioxide? What about the other leaves that are there? So you can compare and contrast with everything that is in literature that you've already read. This will help you enrich your results. Okay, at the end of the day, all we want to know is, what have you discovered? That's all we want to know. What have you discovered? So don't forget, your title is always going to talk about exactly what you are talking about. It has to be brief. It has to be straight to the point. Now, you move from your title, you come to your abstract. Your abstract is answering 3 key questions. What and why are you doing what you're doing? How are you doing it? And then what results are you getting in your abstract? Then you move to your introduction. Your introduction is talking about why and what you're doing. You're describing what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then you talk a bit about your motivation, the why, and then a bit about what you hope to achieve. Then your body or your methodology or your method details is talking about how you're doing what you're doing. And then your results and discussion is going to talk about what you achieved in light of what we already know. Always put it in light of what we already know. So now that we are here, we've been able to at least, okay, do circle there. I don't mind. I don't mind going over the abstract. So what we were talking about in the abstract, let me just go back. This is what we were talking about in the abstract. That your abstract is handling 3 key questions. Okay. The first one, what are you doing and why are you doing it? Okay. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? The second part, how are you doing what you're doing? How do you want to do it? Maybe you want to use fuzzy logic to do something. Maybe you want to use machine learning to do something. What machine learning algorithm are you using? Right? You need to let us know in your abstract. Maybe others have used neural networks and it has not worked. Maybe you want to use a different type of neural network, convolutional neural network. It will, and you are saying it will work. Let us know. So you see, you have to let us know how you're doing it. Remember, first thing, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? The second thing, how are you doing it? And the third thing, what is the result? If you can get these 3 main questions answered in your abstract, then you should be good to go. We will go through an example of an abstract so that you can see what we are talking about. Sakode, are you okay? Are you okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now that we've been able to establish exactly what the results and discussion should also be about. Remember, when you start everything, you have to end it. And to end this is what we call a conclusion and a recommendation. So if you want to end your paper, how are you going to do it? You started with an objective or with objectives, depending on how your research goes. You started with an objective. In your conclusion, you should let us know that you have achieved your objective, and this is why you achieved your objective. Or I did not achieve my objective, and this is why. Okay. Now let's go back to the leaf situation we're talking about. We achieved our objective. The leaf is able to store carbon dioxide more than 20 times the normal method we have. We stated that. Now we just talk a bit about why it was able to do that. Because it was able to do that because of 1 or 2 of the ingredients we were able to boost. That is why. Or it wasn't able to do that because it lacked certain things. Now, these are the conclusions you are bringing forward. So, this information should have been in your results and discussion. You don't want to bring any new information into your conclusion. The conclusion is more like the place where you are summarizing everything. So, how the conclusion benefits you is that when someone takes your paper, the first thing the person is going to read is your title. The second thing is your abstract. If these 2 things provide the person that interest, then he will move on to your conclusion to see if you were able to get exactly what you wanted to get and to see why. So if your conclusion, you don't conclude well, it affects your readership. If you have any recommendations to give, you can also give a recommendation, and that will work perfectly for you. So remember, you have to focus on what you want to achieve. And what you want to achieve, that is exactly what you have to focus on. If you did not achieve what you wanted to achieve, then you have to state why you did not achieve what you wanted to achieve. A research doesn't mean that always you have to get what you want to your objectives. No. Sometimes you don't get your objectives. There should be a reason why. That can also be a stepping stone for someone else who will come after you to do the research. So that is it for the write-up, the whole write-up. Like I promised you, we're going to go through some examples. These examples are examples I have picked up personally. We are going to go through them. They are sample abstracts. Since right now, for the student paper contest, the first thing you have to do is submit an abstract. We're going to go through about 2 abstracts. Then we'll take the key takeaways. So this is the first one. Okay. This is the first one. I'm going to leave it there for a while. Now, I want you to read this first part. Okay. You guys should read this first part. Then anyone at all can tell me what the problem is. We've already seen the title, Carbon Capture Optimization for a Greener Tomorrow using a proxy model-driven numerical simulation. So just read the first part, and anyone at all can unmute and then let me know what you think the problem is. Or you can even send it into the chat.
Yes,
Yes.
So please, I think the problem that I was able to figure out is about the greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you, sir.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. It's about greenhouse gas emission. But what exactly in greenhouse gas emission? You realize that in this paragraph is also talking about something more. Yes, Senna.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. So what I realized that there is a increased urgency for climate change action on the
Mhm.
climate change, and that is bringing light to carbon capture, storage, and
Yeah.
utilization. So the
Yeah.
point is that there are challenges in terms of sequestering the carbon, which is
Mhm.
basically leakages.
Yeah.
And most of the project has not neglect that effect, and maybe your
Mhm.
book is going to tackle optimizing that side.
Perfect. Jude, you are also right. So, perfect. You see, there's this paragraph. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw it when you were reading. This paragraph tells you what the problem is. It tells you exactly what the problem is. And that is what we want to do. Remember, your first point is your what and why. This paragraph gives you your what and why. What is the problem? Why do you want to solve it? You see, it says that previous studies have predominantly focused on CO2 storage modeling. They've always focused on modeling, neglecting optimization strategies that reduce leakage risk and how such optimization may impact storage performance. This is your why. This is your why. Now, let's move on to the next part. Okay. Now, we need to know the motivation of or the objective of the research. Now, someone should also read this side and then just let me know what you think the research wants to do. The middle part. Now we are looking at the how, right? We are looking at the how. So you can either send it in the chat or you can unmute yourself or raise your hand. I think I get a notification here, so. You can see exactly what is going on, eh? Okay. Don't worry, let me help you out a bit. You realize that in here, after talking about the strategies, the person went ahead to say that limited knowledge exists on rock property sensitivity to be able to capture the leakage. So the study is going to couple flow geomechanics with proxy modeling to optimize CO2 storage and minimize leakage. So how is it going to do it? So how so the problem was there. How is it going to solve the problem? And that's what the person is saying, that he wants to couple flow geomechanics simulation with proxy modeling to optimize CO2. And that is what, according to this abstract, has been lacking. And that is what he's bringing on. You see, anyone who reads up to here will know exactly what the paper is about. And the person will be interested. Oh, okay, let me see what this person has written on. Then the final part is just the results. You see, you have to put a sample of your results. You realize that the person was talking about the entrapment when they did the flow geomechanics. What was the entrapment like? How did it, you see, those things. And then the person ended up putting it in a general perspective that if we're able to do this, then that means we need a cap rock to be able to prevent the migration of captured CO2. So this is what we are talking about, right? I hope you guys have seen it. Okay, this paper has already been published in SPE 1 Petro. So this is what we are talking about, that first of all, you need your what and why. Second, you need your how. How are you solving that problem? Then third, you need a sample of your results. Remember to put it in a general perspective. Now let's look at another example, okay? All we want to see is your what and why. So let's read the first paragraph. We know the title. Now there is also a catchy title. An oil and gas retrofitted carbon capture utilization storage value chain, a green industry. There is also a catchy title. So we just want to know your why and what. So can anyone tell me from reading the first paragraph what the why and what is? Or at least, what does the person want to do? Okay, Senna.
Hello.
Yeah, Senna, I can hear you.
Okay, so the point in the first point is trying to say that there is climate change which has been attributed to the use of fossil fuel, maybe 80%. But
Yeah.
according to the actions that can be taken to do away with the climate change, there should be like something like renewables and other energy, clean energies. But that clean and those stuff will not be able to deliver. So there has to be something that will be used with the fossil fuels to promote greener energy.
Yeah, perfect. Well done, Senna. Well done. That is exactly what we are talking about. Now you see the person brought out the what and why. Why is he doing this research? Because the solutions that are available are not able to fulfill our energy needs. But then we can't do away with fossil fuel. So in order to meet that energy need, look at what the person is saying, that he is proposing that we retrofit the entire value chain in order to decrease greenhouse gas emission. Now, if I read this abstract, I'm like, okay, how is the person proposing it? What is the person bringing up? Then I have to go into the paper and then read it. Okay. So it goes ahead to give a brief, just a sample of what the proposal would look like. Okay. You realize that there's a difference between how this abstract was captured and how this one was captured, especially when you get to where the result is. This abstract was purely technical, and so you have to give your results that you had. You know, he's talking about Barton Bande's model. No, not everyone knows that. But since it's purely technical, you have to let us know exactly what you did and what the results are. But then here, it's not purely technical, and so you're able to understand exactly what the person is talking about. It gives a general overview of what the whole thing looks like. So what are the key takeaways from what we've discussed so far? Remember, the first thing you want to do when you are planning on submitting your abstract for the student paper contest is 1, know your problem. Know your problem. What problem do you want to solve? Why do you want to solve that problem? Write it down. Now, what solution are you bringing on board and how are you going to get that solution? Write it down. What results are you getting and what is the benefit from that result? It can be to optimize time, it can be to increase profit, it can be to an economical means of doing stuff, or it can be sustainability related. Writing an abstract is not difficult. It should be very very easy. And if you follow these 3 steps, you should be able to write your own abstract. Remember, define your problem, get your solution, and let us know the value of that solution in your abstract. And if you're able to do that, believe me, when you submit your abstract, you definitely get an approval. So there are other resources, several of them, that you may want to also look at. The first 2 are SPE resources on YouTube. When you go to on YouTube, you can easily type anything over there. Yes, Jude, there is a maximum number of words for an abstract. Okay, every paper have their specifications, and every contest have theirs. For the student paper contest, once you go onto the SPE website, you see the regulations there. Okay, these regulations they contain the maximum number of words you need to submit. You need to write in order to submit your abstract. I will encourage you to go onto the SPE website and then look for it. Okay, it is there, so you should be able to find it and then abide by it. There is when you are writing your technical paper as well, there is a maximum number of pages and maximum number of words for your technical paper. Okay, you should find the updated regulations on the SPE website on student paper contest. Yeah. So Jude, I hope you're okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So we've got Emmanuel. Emmanuel has informed us all that is 425 words, which is good. So you can keep that in mind, Jude, so that we'll be able to abide by it. So like I was saying, you can get these first 2 on YouTube. They are SPE. The second one was given by Terry Palish, who was the SPE president, 2024 president. Then the first one is an 8-part series. It was uploaded a long time ago on SPE International. An 8-part series. It's very, very good. You can get that to refresh your mind on it. Terry's discussion on how to write and submit an abstract for SPE is also very, very good. You just go to YouTube and then type this over there. You'll be able to get it. Now, this lady is not from SPE, but she's also very good when it comes to writing technical papers. And she also has a YouTube page, which you can also look at. Her name is Karen McKee. So she's also very good. So these are 3 of the resources I can recommend to you, but then there are so many others. We are also there to assist you in your writing. If you need any assistance, just let us know, and we'll be more than ready to assist you. So this is where, when it comes to technical paper, this is more of a crash course on it, an overview of it. So this is where, when it comes to technical paper, what we can discuss so far. So, Dr. J.
Thank you very much, Doc. Very insightful. You have given us a key component of a good technical paper. I wish you could add this before probably we end. Just a question for you. If you could throw more light on the type of referencing style that they could use in the write-ups.
Okay. So indeed, you have to reference your authors, okay? You have to reference them. For SPE technical papers, they do have their referencing style, and you find it in the regulations as well. But then most of the time, when you want to reference an author, the best thing you can do, right, when you go to Google Scholar, okay, probably you get your paper from Google Scholar, you see a quotation mark next to where the person's name is and the paper title is. When you click on that quotation mark, okay, you get different referencing styles over there. I think the one that you can mostly go in for is the Harvard one. When you click on it, then it copies it for you. You put it in your write-up. Make sure that the name of the author comes very well. You need the name of the author, the year that the paper was published. You need the title of the paper in your reference. And then you also need to put in the pages in the paper in your reference. And most SPE papers are conference papers. So you need to also put in the where the conference was held, maybe in Accra, Ghana. So you put it in there. So remember, you need all this information so that we can be able to know exactly where your sources are coming from. So yes.
Thank you very much, Doc. You know, some of us, we got to learn about how to write a good technical paper the hard way. So I was telling the students that this is a great opportunity for you to be here and get to learn everything. So guys, the floor is still open. If you have questions, Doc is here to answer all your questions before we log out finally. So we just give some few seconds if you have any question so that you can ask. We also have Prof. Amorin on the line. So Prof, if you have anything to add, the floor is also yours.
I think someone has raised.
Sana, you can ask you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. My question is not directly to the technical paper aspects, but the abstract that he shared. It tickled my interest in the decarbonizing of the oil and gas industry. Yes, so some months ago, I read about the government actions to the climate change, and then the paper was published by the EPA, which says that it's trying to decarbonize the oil fields. And in that aspect, I don't understand what it is trying to say. So if he says it's the actions to his climate change is decarbonizing the 3 fields that he have, what is it trying to say? If you can help me with that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good you are reading about decarbonization. It's the way forward, and it's something we all should get involved. And I'm happy you've already started doing that. In actual fact, I have not read the article you are referring to, but then I can throw a bit light on the whole decarbonization process, right? So when we are talking about decarbonization process, some companies, right, which SLV is also part of, are bringing on solutions that will reduce the amount of time we spend doing some jobs. So the challenge is that CO2 emission does not only come from offshore or burning of oil or flaring. No, there are 3 scopes: scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Okay, scope 3 is the dangerous one because that one is not directly coming from the offshore activities. Scope 3 is from the end users, right? So these are things that we all have to take part in to reduce the carbon footprint. Scope 2 is more related to the offshore activity, but scope 1 is very, very related to the offshore activities. So these companies are putting in measures that will reduce scope 2 emissions. and then scope 3 emissions as well. So they are automating certain things that will more or less require someone to drive all the way from here to somewhere else to get a job done. They are making it online so that we can reduce that carbon footprint. Okay, so if the person is talking about decarbonization of the oil and gas industry, it doesn't mean that we are just going to do away with oil, but then we're putting in measures that can help us reduce scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions.
Someone asked in the inbox that, please, is it always compulsory to reference from SPE only, or other sources are also accepted? That is the first question. Another asks that, can you submit an abstract as a group or one student per abstract? Can a student submit more than one abstract? These are the two questions in the inbox.
Okay. Perez, thank you for your question. I believe you are talking about papers, right? The papers you'll be referencing. So if you are talking about papers you'll be referencing, you are not restricted to SPE papers only. So far as you can reference those papers, you are good to go. So even if the paper was written by your lecturer or was written by even yourself, you can reference your own paper. And then once it's been published, it's out there. Before a paper gets published, it goes through peer review. So you write a paper, it goes to other people, reviewers, who have to review the paper and then accept that that paper should be published. So before it's published, it goes through some rigorous activity. So once it's published, then it's accepted that that paper is good for readership. So if the paper has been published, you should be able to reference it. That shouldn't be a problem. Then, John, you're asking if you want to submit in a group or a student can submit more than one abstract. Per the SPE rules or the guidelines, you have to submit for yourself. Okay. I know sometimes you guys, in some universities, you work on projects as a group. Okay. If that is why you're asking this question, you can think about the part you are playing in that project. Okay, and then try and see if you can write on that part. Or you can also speak to your group members if you can be the person whose name should be on the paper, because for the student paper contest, they usually require that it should be a sole author. So that means just one author, and you cannot submit more than one abstract at in an opening. So for instance, right now that they've opened for the student paper contest, it will not be prudent to submit more than one abstract in hopes that maybe if this one doesn't go through, then the other one will go through. No, you should submit one abstract, and it should be a sole authored abstract, which means if John, you are the author, then it should be your name.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doc, for your time. And I'll leave the closing remarks for the professor himself, Professor Amorin, to close this activity for us. Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for making time for today's webinar on the act of writing abstracts and also a technical paper. The emphasis has been on the abstracts, which is the first point of call, but that is the summary of the work that you've done. And that is what you are requested to submit if you are interested to be considered in the SPC 2024 or 2025 contest, which will take place at, I think, whether March or so. So if you really want to be part, it means that by December, you should submit your abstract. If you've just graduated from school and you would want to submit your work, you would you would have to discuss that with there is more to be done than just saying. So I would also advise that if you want to be a master of the act of writing papers to be accepted, then you have to start from somewhere. You can always team up with somebody to be doing that. As he mentioned, you can also engage him. You can also engage your lecturers or your supervisors so that you're able to put up a very good paper. There is no shame asking a colleague to go through your write-up for you, or a senior person to go through your work before submitting, because once you submit, you can't make changes to that abstract or paper. So if the language isn't too good, you may not get a very good score. This is with respect to the SPC. And once you don't get a very good score, it means you may not be able to migrate or move on to the next level. So always ask somebody to go through that paper for you. If there are changes or updates or modifications that the person recommends, think through and see if you can modify or update your work to make it sharper. So I also want to thank the moderator very much for moderating the program very well. Dr. Stephen Ajay, we are grateful. We are also grateful to the liaison officer, Mr. Banini, who has been working behind the scene to make sure that this actually happens. So we thank everybody once again, and we wish you a very blessed evening, and we hope to see you at the Africa SPC paper contest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Doc Mensah. Guys, do enjoy the rest of your evening. Hope to see you in the next program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.